Today I'm setting up a 7-string made in Japan Ibanez 7420 that has a licensed Floyd Rose low TRS tremolo. I've got it all tuned up so I can take the first measurements. I want to see what the action is over the 1st fret, what the action is over the 12th fret, and also I want to see how much bow there is in the neck. Using a feeler gauge, I see that the high E string over the 1st fret is a little more than 26 thousandths of an inch. The action over the 1st fret is way too high. This guitar actually doesn't play well at all. I have to say, it's a great guitar, but it needs a setup so bad. Fortunately, there's like 2 shims under the nut, so it should be easy to take this off, take the shims off, and lower the nut that way. It shouldn't be too hard to solve that problem, I hope. The action over the 12th fret under the high E string is 7/64 of an inch. That's not bad for a guitar off the rack, but it needs a setup. It just would play so much better if I can get that action down to below 4/64. The capo on the 1st fret, and then I'll hold down the top fret, see where there's the most bow, how much bow does it have. Looks like it has a little more than 21 thousandths of an inch. It's a little bit of bow. It's a good straight neck. Next, I'll loosen the lock nut bolts. I'll get all the strings loose. It's a good tip to remember with the Floyd Rose. Don't just start with the lowest and end up on the high E, because the Floyd Rose is going to wind up putting so much tension on just the high E. Could pop the string very easily. It's very useful to put a trem block in there while the strings are loose. All the screws are tight, all the washers are intact. All the bolts are generally pretty snug. So you can see there's some metal shims here. These have to go for sure. The best way to set the height is to make a little shim out of rosewood. Got the spacer glued on, sanded down, and holes in it. I've got the nut bolted back on. I'm going to use the 17 thousandths of an inch as a feeler gauge. It barely fits under the low E. It catches under the A string. It catches pretty hard under the D string. It catches a lot under the G string too. And there's so much resistance here at the B string that it really can't go any lower. And it barely touches the fret at all as I slide under the high E string. I'd like to get that a little bit lower, which is what I usually wind up thinking with a Floyd Rose nut. So there's not much you can do, and this nut's gonna play great as it is. Next, I'm tightening the truss rod a little bit until I've got the neck dead flat. I want to get the action over the 12th fret at about 4/64 of an inch. The neck's dead flat. I'm going to see how it plays to see how level these frets are. And make sure there's no buzzing, no dead frets, and I can do bends without any choking out. It doesn't choke out when I do bends. I'm happy to find the frets are nice and level. I've adjusted the truss rod now. It's got about 13 thousandths of an inch of bow. There were some weird replacement springs in there that really didn't fit in right, so I'm going to swap them out with these quite decent springs here. Tighten up these claw screws again. As I was cleaning the electronics, I noticed there's a really bad solder. This wire is loose, and here on the white wire, the plastic's been melted off, so this is gonna be shorting out to ground, and this is a hot lead to the pickup. Just a couple contacts need to be redone. It looks like somebody swapped out the pickups and then did a kind of sloppy job swapping the originals back in. Well, it turns out the wiring is not quite right. I tried to get the wiring diagram online, but I couldn't find exactly the right one. So So what I feel like, unfortunately, I have to do is get out the voltmeter. I just need to go through all the possible combinations and chart them out. Just get an ohm reading between the red wire and the black wire. 5.4 ohms. And then I'll make sure there's no shorts. So there's no shorts. On the bridge, between the red and the white is also 6. That makes sense. When they're in series, we get 12. I'm going to verify the polarities with a compass here. What's interesting about the magnetic polarities, they're different from your typical Les Paul or Seymour Duncan pickup. They're made so that when you split each of the humbuckers and use the 2 inner coils, you have 1 south coil and 1 north coil in parallel in reverse phase to cancel the hum. So when you have them coil split in parallel, it's going to get more attack for chugging chords. Whereas when you're using both the humbuckers, you get a circuit that's way hotter. It's better for soloing, finger tapping. So I'm going to turn my multimeter from ohms to millivolts and get a metal instrument. It should give me a negative number when I make contact and a positive number when I break contact. Negative number, positive number. That means green is negative. So that confirms that. Finally, I think I have all the information I need about the pickups. Now I need to map out the different positions of the switch. For once, I was able to find a schematic online. The only thing I added here in my sloppy handwritten diagram is that there's a permanent bridge between 2 and 7, as you see right here, between 2 and 7. Terminal 4 is going to go to the hot on the volume. And then number 6 right here, that's going to the ground. A good exercise in figuring out a circuit, but I realized the easier way was just to send an email to Ibanez. They actually got back to me pretty quickly. It tells you clearly which wires go where on the switch. This RG321 has the same 5-way switch. Fortunately, I was able to confirm that it's the right switch in there. I'm also really glad I got the schematic because it tells you the original values of the capacitors in the original circuit. So I've got all the electronics matching the original specs. Everything's nice and neat in there. This pickup is a little low, it's a little far from the strings, so I want to raise it up. I cut some pieces of foam from an old shoe sole. I cleaned them off and dried them, of course. Now with the foam under there, then I make adjustments with this screw. It squeezes the foam underneath and you can adjust the height, just like with a pickup that's on springs. The neck is straight, the pickups are high, the bridge is low, the electronics are good. Next is to check the intonation and see if I need to adjust the saddle. I'll start by playing an open high E string. Okay, so that's in tune. And holding down the 12th fret. It's a little bit too high here. And when I look at the saddle, I can see that the front of the saddle looks like it put a little chip in the body. Someone going extreme with the tremolo put a couple little chips in the paint. So I'm going to move this back first. When it's intonated, touch that up with some nail polish. And the final step will be touching up these little chips again with some nail polish. Okay, I'll loosen the saddle lock screw. I'll just put it even with the end of the bridge there. Tighten it back down. Not too tight, but nice and snug. Get it back in tune and see where the intonation is. Okay, so the open E, it's in tune. Now holding down the 12th fret. That's in tune too. Of course, I'm going to go through all the saddles. Got all the strings intonated. Saddles are all in nice rows. And the tips of the saddles don't extend out too far. I think a previous owner must have let the bolts get loose. They slipped out, and then when they were using the tremolo, they kind of scraped. As for all the other marks, like these little chip marks against the side, this is what happens when guitarists on stage like to take the body of their guitar and bash it into a cymbal. With a squire, hey, why not go for it? But I definitely want to touch this up. Just make sure that the paint's not going to chip anymore. Put something on there to protect the wood. Looks like a previous owner played the cymbals with the headstock a little bit too. See, I think there were some gashes in there, and they sanded it off. A little bit of the black part there is sanded off. I'm going to make sure that that has a clear coat over it just to protect the wood. I'll make sure the wood is clean and nice and dry. I only have flat black right now. If I want to get some glitter black nail polish and go over it with another coat later, I can always do that. So I cleaned up the edge and put some polyurethane on the headstock.